Side mount is one of the most dominant positions in BJJ and MMA. You have a high level of control with low probability of being swept. As a person on bottom, this is not ideal. So in this video, I'm going to show you 6 ways to improve your situation and get out from under side mount. In this video, we're going over 6 side mount escapes, some being part of a series and the other being very situational. If you're finding me for the first time, feel free to subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell to catch all my upcoming videos on BJJ and MMA. Okay, let's get to it. Before we start off all the side mount escapes, I want to go over one thing, and that's just framing and what I mean by that. There's general consensus of what a frame is, but I'm going to make sure that we got that down before we advance on, because it's going to be very vital to the escapes that we do. Okay, so I'm going to start on my back and in side mount. Now what I mean by frame is where our position of our forearms and our hands are. So it's going to be too hard if I'm latched on here to make any sort of escape. On top of that, I'm not able to separate their body from mine, which I need to generate space to get my legs involved and so on. So I'm going to make sure that this far side hand comes under and the forearm's going to be more or less at their throat. This other hand here, I want the forearm down to the hip, and sometimes that's tough, especially with their knee right there next to my armpit. So I can shoulder walk a couple inches to the side and slide this in. And this is what I mean by the frame, how we frame on top. So our top frame. Now there are going to be a couple obstacles that they can do, that put some obstacles in front of us to stop that. And one of them is just, they have their points of contact right with their knee to my hip, their knee to my armpit. They got this around, and they're bringing their head right here, tucking them real nice and tight. And now it's hard for me to get under. Oh, tighter. I'm like, oh, it's real hard. It's putting pressure on my shoulder to even get this far. This is hard. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to focus on moving his body, and I can only do that by, say, moving his head. Wherever the head moves, the body moves. So this movement I'm going to do right now is not meant to have a full escape. It's just meant to help us establish our frame. Okay. So when they're tucking in nice and tight, this far side arm, I'm going to look for the forearm to go next to the crown. But this, I mean, you think about the mass itself, my arm is not going to be able to shift this whole body too easily, even if it's his head. So I need to have my body behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and push off the floor, bridge upward, and I'm going to go ahead and bring my arm all the way across to the top right side. Now I can't leave this here because then you can go for an arm triangle and things of that nature. So when I come here and I generate the space, I tuck this elbow in and I come back to where I was at initially. They're going to look to regain their positioning, but I'm okay with that because all we're looking to do is establish the top frame. Okay, again, one more time. He's holding nice and tight. I'm going to get my forearm to the crown of his head. I'm going to bridge up and reach my hand across to the other side. I tuck in, and I'm okay with him adjusting his body back into the position as long as I'm able to establish my frame. Okay, now ready for the escapes. Now we're going to get into the 6 escapes that I was talking about. So to start off, we want to make sure we go ahead and establish our frame, our top frame. So I'm going to bring my forearm under. I can shoulder walk if I need to get a nice good frame. And the first one we're going to start off with the hip escape. General hip escape, but we got to just make sure there's 1 or 2 things that go along with this. People are always going to be holding tight down, holding this down pretty tightly. I'm going to start pushing. This frame should be pushing that way. Pushing. It's not pushing up. It's pushing back. This one is pushing up. Now I'm going to go ahead and hip escape with this. And when I do, I got to make sure this leg is straight like any other hip escape. I'm going to throw my hips out and turn my torso into him. And right here, I turn in, I hip escape. Now this space that I generate here is used only to connect my bottom and top half. So my top frame is my forearm here and my elbow. My bottom frame is my leg. I'm connecting my knee to my elbow. This creates like a small shield, if you will. Now with the shield, even if he presses forward, it's still going to be easy for me to keep on pushing back, getting parallel to him, and lining myself up. Now whether I can get my leg all the way out here, or whether he's pressing in so hard that I just get to half guard, either is fine because I'm not inside mount. And this, at the very least, half guard is a 50-50 position. So again, I establish my top frame. I'll get ready to hip escape. Remember, I'm pushing this way while pushing up. I throw my hips out. That space is generated to connect the top and bottom frame. So even if he pushes into me, I still have my shield. I can continue to keep on pushing their shoulder to stop them while I get parallel and regain guard. Last time, in real time. Second escape we're gonna be utilizing. I want to just talk about one thing in particular when it comes to jiu-jitsu just as a concept. Jiu-jitsu is me moving someone's body and moving my body around them. And most of the time it's simultaneous, and that's going to play a role here. So I just want to point that out, that it's not just me moving the body in its entirety and that's it, because that's hard, especially when you're going with someone heavier. Sometimes you have to move your body around them, and most of the time when you get a higher level, you're connecting always bottom and top frames and moving them as well as moving around them. Okay, so this is a situation where I look to hip escape and they look to nullify my hip escape. And how they do that is by how they put certain points around my body. So here's an example. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to set my frame. I look to get my normal hip escape. When I generate my hip escape, I look to connect my frame. They drive their knee to my hip. This makes it harder. Makes it harder for me to connect. I can no longer connect here. So now the hip escape will be void. But the good thing is when they do drive their knee forward, there's space generated right here. So this far side frame is going to pummel under, and now I have the underhook. So even if they go back to the normal side mount, I have the far side underhook. This is the biggest contact, the best contact you're going to have better control. Okay, so with this, they can easily just swim backwards, swim your arm backwards to counter me, and all of a sudden I don't have it anymore. So one of the key things is after I get this underhook, I want to keep on elevating this higher. So I want to have their arm being above their shoulder if I can. So even if they try to swim back, I'm still driving them forward and making it hard for them to make adjustment. And one of the better things about this, and like I said, I'm going to move them at the same time, move around them. When I keep on elevating this, I'm going to start to slide downward, and I can look to grab the hip and come up here. Now, whether they fight me with a whizzer, something else, and when I'm in this dogfight position, that's for sure a possibility, very common possibility. But the best thing is I'm not on the bottom, and that's really important. So again, I look to do a hip escape. He takes away my frame. I pummel under, so when he looks to regain his side mount position, I keep on elevating, which takes some of his body off me. But now I'm looking to slide under, hip heist, and then when he goes and he can combat this, or if I just get a clean move, I get behind him and take their back. One more time, no more live. All right, let's go on to the next. So now if you notice, the past two escapes kind of played into each other. And that's one thing about, like, say, jiu-jitsu, is a lot of moves blend into each other. And the art in jiu-jitsu itself that's what it is. It's just it should be a series of transitions between one move to the next. And how they kind of help set you up for the next move, set you up for the next move, and set you up to go back and start again and do the process over until you find something that's successful. So if you notice, we did a hip escape. When they stopped it, we went under and kind of got the underhook and wedged ourselves out. Now, what happens when they combat that wedge? When they get me into a whizzer? If you're not sure what a whizzer is, that's when they go ahead and lock an overhook around your arm and press on the back of your shoulder. And I'll show you. You'll see it right now. So now, let's say I go ahead and get into this frame. I do my hip escape. They take away my. There's a way for me to frame because they put their knee to my hip. I pummel under to get this underhook. When I start to elevate and go under, they go whizzer. See how they got the overhook, and now they're pushing down on my shoulder. When they push down on my shoulder and push it to the ground, they like thumbtack me into the ground here. But one of the good things about it for me is they keep themselves here too. So I'm no longer pushing up. I'll bring this hand back down to the waist. And even though I'm saying this is side mount escape, this is a way that comes from side mount where I'm going to actually go into half guard. This far side leg is going to come in and tuck the ankle into a figure four, And at this point, there's nothing they can do from stop me from sweeping. Again. Again, I establish my frame, my hip escape. They take it away with the position of their knee. I can't frame. I pummel under. When I start to elevate and slide down, they get me into a whizzer. And like I said, thumb tag me into the ground. Thumb tagging themselves as well, which makes it easier for me to bring this far side leg. Hook this ankle into the figure four. I bring this hand to the waist. Keep everything nice and tight. And just take them for a ride. Last time in real time. Now the last part of the sequence, at least for the very basic kind of escapes, it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna chain all together. Where if I can do a hip escape, cool. If I can't do a hip escape and I get my arm, the underhook under and wedge myself out, that's one. If they get a whizzer, I can go ahead and sweep them. And this is another part where they don't whizzer, but they just kind of shift their weight back on top of me pretty heavily. You get this more from like the heavier kind of competitors. So we'll start right here, the same old thing. I'm going to do a hip escape. They're going to take away my opportunity from my frame. I pummel under. But this time they're not whizzering, they're just shifting their weight back, and how they're doing that by pushing forward on my jaw, right here with their shoulder. But I still got this far side underhook. And this hand is fairly easy to move around as far as like, even though it's close and tied up here, if this frame was done the right way, I can still pull this down and pull it to the opposite side. So now both hands are over here. Now they can easily counter this if I don't act quickly. So this is one of those moves that happens immediately. You're not waiting for all these other opportunities, or you're not waiting here 2 seconds. It's like right when it comes to your side, we're gonna look at something called a dump truck. We're gonna elevate both hands. I'm gonna start by bringing my hips off the ground, chaining together with my arms. Now whether I want to turn over right here and face them, or I can turn towards their head to head, either is fine. But again, this is an explosive movement, so it shouldn't be something that you stay there for 2 seconds and think about, because there are ways to counter. So again, I hit the frame, I do my hip escape, they take away my frame, possibly from my bottom and top frame. I come under, and they're looking to shift their weight forward, not looking to do a whizzer. From here, this side is free. I come under to the other end, and I immediately step, throw my hips up, and dump. All right, one more time. All right, now we're gonna get on to the situationals. Okay, now in these situational setups, these are just when our opponent is in side mount position, but they're not following the same typical points of contact. What I mean by that is their knee will be against my hip, the other knee underneath my armpit. They're looking to get the far side underhook and keeping their elbow tucked in over here and the jaw pressure tight. That's like the typical setup for the side mount position. But some people might throw others for a loop when they do a small alteration to this. So they'll bring their arm on the opposite end and put their elbow next to the opposite side of the neck. Now this will traps me in here a little bit, but what they're really trying to do is isolate this arm. If I have this arm up really high, they can get Americanas fairly easy. If I bring this down, they can start sliding down for a Kimura. Okay, so now, that being said, when they're right here, this kind of like I said, this is just situational only if they do this. What I can do is kind of bring my arm down here a bit. This will make them start sliding down with both arms to isolate that into a Kimura or a straight armbar. But this kind of frees up this hand, and this hand is going to be the biggest asset here. So what I'm going to do now with the free hand, and because they slid down off my body just a bit, I'll bring my thumb, bring my fingers to the top of the shoulder. Now what I look to do, I'm going to look to sit up, and when I look to sit up, I'm going to look to push on the back of their shoulder. But when I do so, I'm going to try to go to like a 45-degree angle this way. When I do this, what I was talking about earlier is how I can move their body and then move my body around them. That's going to play a factor here, because I'm going to look to shove their body as far as possible until it hit like a wall, until like they're no longer moving. at which point I'll start scooting back and away from them myself. So when I look to isolate that arm, I'm coming here, I start to push and come up. I can only go right there, then I look to slide out. They look to isolate. I'll drag this down here so they can start sliding down my body. I'll attach myself. Now sometimes I'm not gonna say you get lucky, but sometimes you have a good explosion and you make their body fly and you won't have to move too much yourself. Yeah. Other times when they look to isolate, you might barely push them right here and then have to keep on moving more than actually pushing. Yeah. So one thing last thing I want to point out, at least for this one, is you notice that when they're starting to isolate, this particular move is best when their torso and chest is 100% flat on my body. They're just trying to slide down. It makes it easier for me to get my thumb underneath the armpit and push. Okay? So now let's get to the next one. So this is the last situation we're going to cover, and this is when our opponent's looking to isolate again. Now, let me preface this by saying that this may seem very similar, and it is similar to some degree. However, the actual movement of your body is different. So when they're looking to isolate, and I do the same setup where I kind of put my arm out here so they can slide down to get the Kimura, which gives me opportunity to push on the back of their shoulder and sit up. But sometimes they don't do this. When they look to isolate, they're going to turn their body towards my hips. And they rest their ribs on my body instead. Which, if you think about the point of contact, there's no longer such big surface space. It's not like their full chest and their full stomach's on me. It's just the side of their ribs. And because it's angled down, it's harder for me to get underneath this armpit and push. So now it's harder, and at the same time, they're threatening you with a possible submission. Okay, so now I'm going to hip escape, but I'm not going to hip escape in the same fashion I normally would, where I try to turn into them. Because if I try to turn into them and I do this, I'm giving them the space behind my back to attach that Kimura and get me. So I'm going to hip escape the opposite direction. Now I'm still looking to push this as much as possible, or at the very least push on it so they don't advance upward, while I try to move my hips up past theirs. So I turn my body and I come this way, and I'm moving my hips more than pushing them to turn back around and defend. I know this is generally hard to discern inside the thick of it, but it's once you get used to like a faster pace inside jiu-jitsu, it's easier to discern whether their whole chest is on top or whether their ribs are just on top of you. So when they're looking to isolate, I'm looking to set him up where he slides down my body, but then he turns towards my hip. Now, like I said, the point of contact with his ribs, it's hard for me to get under. So now I'm looking to turn into him, because if I turn away, I'm setting myself up for a Kimura. So I turn into it. This gives me enough space to throw a hip escape, get my hips up, and face. Go a little more live here. And that'll wrap this video up. Make sure you drill the techniques so they flow together like everything else in BJJ. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions, list them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'm Coach EJ.